Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very last part of this first video around the changes in Identity Manager version 7. You know, we are talking about database and database calculation processes, schema extensions and whatever. And in this very last part, I want to talk about exactly two things. First of all, I want to talk about role classes and what is new if I create a role class. And secondly, I want to talk about the new data importer and what was improved in the data importer. So follow me now to the screen and we start just talking about new Identity Manager bits. In this part of the video, I want to show you how to create a role class. I will say that is a standard process. You should have done this in the past if you work with the Identity Manager. But there is something new and this is something I want to show you. To create the role class, I opened the Manager tool. This is one of the tools of the Identity Manager, as you know. And in the Manager, I navigated to the business roles. Here are the business roles. And underneath the business roles, it's a specific filter called Business Configuration Data. And part of Business Configuration Data, it's the Role Classes node. In the Role Classes node, I create a new role class. Here we are. And first thing I will do to create that role class is to say, that is my new role class. So after I named my role, I can as well define a role type, which just is helpful if you have a lot of roles. Then it may be helpful just to start with role types so that later on roles can better identify it. You can as well configure an attester if that is something you want to do, and a description is always helpful. And then we have to talk about inheritance top-down or inheritance bottom-up. That is exactly, with the delegable flag here, all the stuff you know from the past. If you are a really experienced one, then you will now figure out that there is something missing on the screen. Please remember the past. In the past, in version 6, we have had here two drop-down boxes and we was able to select one or more than one property out of these specific drop-down boxes and add them to a list. And if you started with the first drop-down box, then the second drop-down box was filled automatically exactly with the same selection than the box before. Both fields was there to assign manageable items to a role. What's behind that? Remember please the DB scheduler of the old days. The DB scheduler of the old days is responsible for calculating every assignment given by role. That means there's a role, this role contains a person object and the role contains some permissions. And if accounts of the person should get the permissions, then the DB scheduler has to calculate that membership. Because we are managing more than one target system type in Identity Manager, it is now possible that a role can contain a lot of different permissions out of a lot of different target system types. If we don't configure something, then the poor DB scheduler has to calculate more or less every combination of account types and permission types to figure out what at the end is to provision. Unfortunately, that could be a really huge number of different assignments, and because of that, there was a functionality allowing to identify the resource types I want to manage with that specific role. Is this configured? Then the DB scheduler will only calculate these assignments and will not take care on the others. Nevertheless, this functionality it's already there, but it is not there in this specific form we have just opened. I store first my work, clicking on Save. And if that is done, I just move here to the task section, and in the task section there is Configure Role Assignments. And if I click on that, I will see the two drop-down boxes now as a list with checkboxes in two columns after the name. For example, I can decide that my role structure should now work with employees, AD and LDAP groups. And to do so, I can start first with the employees. Here are the employees, and employees could be assigned, and I expand that a bit, and it could be directly assigned. And this is exactly what we have had in these two drop-down boxes. And I exactly know that a lot of people have had problems in the past to get these two things divided. So I will explain it again. If I click the first checkbox, Assign Permitted, then I allow the role class and all roles underneath that employees could be assigned. Could be assigned means I can take a nice VB.NET script, assign employees, and so on. The second checkbox here, Direct Assignment Permitted, means that I can do this manually using the manager. Okay, there's the difference. If I check that box, I can use the manager tool to assign manually employees to the role. If I uncheck that checkbox, I can assign employees, but I cannot do that using the manager tool. Therefore, I need, for example, a VB.NET script or a web front or something like that. Normally, we will check both boxes, and in seldom used cases, the manually assignment is not allowed. Then we will uncheck the second box. Now I will do the same for AD groups, here we are, and I will do the same for LDAP groups, here we are. And if I have that triple here selected and the complete stuff stored, then if I move to my filter and I refresh here my view, then here I can see my new role class, and clicking on the role class and telling the system this is my first new role, I get a role form. I can type in here role 1. Role 1 is my first role, and it's part of the role class of my new role class here. And what I see now here in the task list is exactly what I expect. I'm able to assign employees. I'm as well able to assign Active Directory groups and LDAP groups. But I'm, for example, not possible to assign resources because resources are not part of my configuration I've made seconds before. Now you can ask me, what is the reason why I tell you this at the end? Because the way to configure my role class, it's pretty new. Yeah, remember, I can now use here the configuration of role assignments. And because on some other parts in the tool, our developers decided to give up these, I will say, drop-down boxes where you can select more than one item and replace them by these M2N relationship forms where you can select the whole stuff here with the help of some columns, which from my perspective works much nicer than before. I'm sure in the past you have tried to import, for example, a department list, and doing so and knowing that the department list is a tree structure, that means at the end there's a parent department and some child departments. You remember that nice feature in the data importer wizard that you have to run the data import, the same data import, the department data import, twice. And the reason for that was the first import was creating all the elements and the second import was creating the structure. This was always the case if you started the import from an unsorted list. That means a list where childs and parents are nicely mixed in their position in the list. Whatever, in the meantime, our data importer wizard is able now to work with that. So I want to show you this here. I step within my data importer just to my database. That is just signing into the database. And because I'm a little bit lazy, I will now take a pretty pre-configured import because I don't want to configure the complete import only to show you one feature. And here I take my import definition. Here we are. And with the import definition, I can start here a CSV file import, for example. I have to take my data file. You can see many departments. And next, and you can see pre-configured here the header line. This is the result out of the definition file. It's semicolon separated. I don't want to create some where clauses. That is all old stuff. You have seen that before. This is my department table. That is the parent table that gets all the fields. You can as well see the fields are mapped right now. This is because I've loaded the definition file. And what is new now is that specific screen. In this specific screen now, you can say the key column is my full path column. And there's a parent key column, and this parent key column, it's for example UID parent department full path, and that will then build the hierarchical information, and this hierarchical information will build the structure. To show you what I mean, I will just open the CSV file, and I do that using LibreOffice Calc. Here it is. It shows me the complete CSV file in a nice table view. You can see many properties. One of them is the full path. Full path is the complete path information, including the tree structure to my element. And what I need if I want to build a hierarchical structure is as well the path of the parent. And this is the path of the parent. Now you can see this is the parent path of that one here. And with the help of this, now the identity manager is able to build out hierarchical structures. The only thing you have to ensure is that in your source file, it's the identifier for the element and the identifier of the parent of the element. Back to my data importer, I have only to hit on the next button. I will run the complete import and I will get the structure and the elements in one run, and I have not to run the import again. This is, from my perspective, a perfect improvement, and with that, many of these imports in the project will be very fast in the future. By the way, CSV file, it's only one data format. You can use whatever other database format using the data importer you want. So for example, the same functionality is implemented for MySQL connection or something like this.